Welcome to About You. I'm Connie Hogan. Well, the show today is going to be more focused on news you can use. Of course, featuring a very successful, prominent woman in our community. Jill Gleba is the founder and president of Gleba and Associates, which she founded way back in 1985. But most recently, she has written a book, which I have. It's called Uncommon Sense: Stories about Saving, Investing, and Everything in Between. And we're going to talk of a lot of the stories she has in there. It's really interesting. And she's kind of built her business and then written a book kind of on her experiences in life, many experiences. And most recently, she was honored, she doesn't want me to tell you, but she was honored in Orlando as from Enterprising Women magazine, and she was one of the Women of the Year for Enterprising Women. Jill Gleba, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Don't kill me, don't be mad.
No, no.
You've earned it. We were just saying
You're
we've
right.
earned
We've
all
earned
of
it.
our
We can say it.
accolades, right? And you have
Yes.
so many. So Jill, I always like to start with kind of the beginning, in the beginning. So you went to Wayne State, or was it Wayne?
I went to
or-
Wayne State, paid for my college, worked full time, went to school full time.
Wow.
I wish I had the football experience and that type of thing, but
I had enough for both of us at Notre Dame.
did
so-
you? Couldn't afford it, so I just worked through college, and then I thought I wanted to be a profiler. So I had psychology and criminal justice.
Oh, wow.
Went
I
on to
didn't
do
know
my
that. Wow.
master's, and the experience of the probation and working in criminal justice was kind of nasty.
Really?
So
I
and
would
disturbing
imagine,
and disturbing.
yeah.
So I came home one day and I said to my husband, he said, he actually said to me, "Do you really want this kind of life?" And I said,
Okay.
"No, I don't. I'll have to think of something else." And it was upsetting because I was already halfway through a master's at
Oh,
Eastern
wow.
Michigan.
Oh, my goodness.
I
Wow.
was on some wait list with U of M, but I then decided, this is funny. I'm at home and I'm upset thinking, well, what am I going to do now, because I was so focused. And we got some letters in the mail. They were to my husband, because this is in the 80s, and they asked him if he wanted to be a financial planner. So I called up 3 companies and said, I received a letter at home, so I didn't lie, because the letter wasn't for me. And I said, could I come in and interview? And the next thing you know, they're all fighting over me because there's no females in the business.
Right.
And so I ended up with Prudential, where I got trained, and there were
Oh, okay.
65 associates, and there was 2 females.
Wow. Now that would have been like mid-80s, early.
That was 85,
Yeah.
because that's when I first licensed
That's kind of
up,
when I
and-
was starting with GM. Yeah.
Really?
Mhm, yeah.
Wow. So you remember, it was just kind of,
It was. I mean, it's interesting because I don't think that we were the first wave, but we were certainly among the first waves. And I was one of the first girls at Notre Dame. That's always my claim to fame.
Oh, really?
Not the very first. I always say it's not. I'm no old, but not that old. But
No,
maybe it was like the 5th or 6th year graduates, and then in General Motors, GM really. I guess I would say GM and Ford. I worked for Ford too. They had more women than you would think. I think. But it was, you're kind of trailblazing. You really were kind of trailblazing.
there were, I was a young female, there was an older female there. That was back in the day that the men thought I was stealing their job, but our job at
Oh, right,
Prudential
yeah.
was pure commission.
Right, yeah.
So
those
you're
are
starting
hard.
your own book. I remember they said you need 100 names of people to call. Well, we didn't grow up with money. I had nobody to call. So I started with the phone book.
Wow.
And I actually
No kidding.
would get in the legal news.
So cold calls.
I cold called. I
Okay,
actually
wow.
looked in the legal news, and I found people that just had mortgages. They just bought a home, because you have to record that legally. And then I would literally, this is showing my age, but I had pre-made letters. I typed all the addresses in, folded them, stuffed them, and then made 400 calls a week. And that's how I started my business.
So I can kind of see that from my impression of you, because that's really working hard.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's really what it's about. It's really, as we used to say in GM, getting a piece of paper out the door.
Yes.
You could have all the credentials. Believe me, I could write a book on this from Notre Dame or wherever, Harvard. And it didn't make any difference if you're
No.
not moving the needle that they want you to move the needle.
Correct.
That's all. And
Yeah.
whether it's Prudential or GM
And
or
it's
whoever.
pure sales, so
Yeah, that
think about
that wouldn't be
it's-
good at that though. That
No.
would not. Oh my God, no.
I'm not a
No.
good salesperson, but I'm really good at helping people. So when I would meet people, I'd say, I can help you with this, and have a conversation with them. And to me, it was, the psychology actually came in handy, because I would listen to
Yeah.
people
Oh,
and what
for
they needed. I'd say,
sure.
you know, this and this and this might solve your problem. And actually, it came pretty easy to me. I was quite surprised, actually, that I went home after the interview. And my husband actually drove me to the interview because he didn't think I'd show up. Because
Oh
I'm
my
like, I'm not a
gosh.
salesperson. He was just show up. And I had been investing since I was 12. So I already knew how to invest. I already had that experience. So when I went there, I got back in the car and I said to my husband, I said, you know, he goes, geez, you were in there for 2 hours. I said, I know. And I said, they're going to pay me to talk to people. Can you believe it? And I was so happy.
Right.
And really the rest is history because that's what I've done my whole life now.
Wow.
I haven't had any other job but being a financial advisor.
Wow. The hardest part with that, I think, is just getting the audience and getting the conversation going, I would think.
Finding customers was the hardest thing.
Right. Finding them and then getting past that conversation. Because, you know, I mean, it's like people used to say about MetLife insurance. Nobody wants to talk about life insurance, you know.
Yeah,
and
if we're at
that's even better than this.
It's
really.
true because if we're at a party and you're getting tired and you want to clear the room, I could stand up and say, hey, I sell life insurance, and I could clear the room for you.
Right.
Right?
Right, and
Yeah.
here's my card and call me.
Yeah.
So then, okay, that started, and then it was soon after that, though, that you did start Gleba and Associates.
Yes, so I was the advisor myself. I left Prudential and then started my own company. And
Now, were you doing accounting? Because I thought because I knew you for a mutual friend, I thought you were the accountant for these people. No, oh, I misunderstood that.
that's
then.
okay. A lot
Yeah.
of people confuse like taxes and accounting with financial planner. Financial planner to me is like a coach for your money.
Right, and
Really, the bottom line
and no
is-
offense, but there's so many. I mean, there's just
Yes.
oh, it's like real estate agents, more so. Even
You're
than
right.
because
There's
realtors
a
have to
zillion
get
of them.
you
Yes.
know certified or whatever.
I think women are about 10% of the population, so we are
Mm-hmm.
different that way. My daughter and Moise are taking over my business, and he's from India, and she's female, so we couldn't be more diverse.
Oh my goodness,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so then that was you just really built your business on that, and I know
Very
it's
slowly,
very
and just build it up.
slowly.
And I had Michelle when I went solo or broke from Prudential, so that was kind of interesting because, you know, you're pregnant, you have a baby, and okay, I'm starting my own business. So I actually worked 4 days a week to build my business. I wasn't going to be away from the house for that many hours a week. And I'd work late Tuesdays and then sometimes another night and then Saturday. So I was predictable for my husband. But I always had Wednesdays off to spend with my kids. And I didn't answer the phone. I didn't do, you know,
We always have to do, you know, kind of draw boundaries, or especially today with the social media and everything's online. And
constant.
I mean, I honestly always get into this in these interviews, but it's like I don't envy the younger people because I remember in my day, it was like it was fun to get to 5 o'clock on Friday, and not that at GM the whistle blows, but whatever, but you would be leaving and you'd kind of like clock out, and there was nothing greater than that. You go to have happy hour on Friday, and it's like you don't have, maybe at times you would, but generally speaking, you wouldn't have to think about it till 7 o'clock on Monday morning.
And
you
that's
know.
that's the average life, but the life of a business owner is we never stop
Never
thinking
never.
about it.
Well, nowadays nobody does because it's
No.
on the phone, it's wherever, you
But
know.
the business is my first baby, and my daughter likes to say she's my second, and
That's
my
right.
son's the third.
Right,
So
exactly.
It just is what it is.
Because you had the business so long ago, you know.
And you are working every day because I had
Mm-hmm.
to do the books on the weekends and all that. So, and then later, I can't remember when it was, but I have another degree at Oakland University.
Okay.
So I did the CFP. And all
Oh, that was, so you're the CFP. Okay, so
Yeah.
that does certainly segregates you from a lot of them, you know, kind of thing.
We're different. Honestly, we're different for a couple reasons. But
Okay.
one is we're independent. So
Okay.
we own our book of business. We're not under any umbrella with an insurance company or a wirehouse.
So that's certified financial planner.
I took all the classes. I don't
Okay.
use that title now. So
Okay.
just to be, but we are independent. We own our own business. We own our own book. If I was at Prudential, I was an employee of Prudential.
Right.
They owned the book of business.
Right.
And then number two is we do a lot of 401k plans, and a lot of companies
Wow.
do that. I get referrals from other planners because I had an AIF when I was running the company, and that's for 401k plans and
Okay.
to
Right.
you know, sell those. So a lot of planners don't do 401k plans, but that's
Right.
kind of what
That's
we
what
do.
I thought. Yeah.
That's our
So
thing. That's our jam.
your competitors would be somebody like Fidelity or Prudential or Merrill Lynch.
Yes.
Wow. So you're kind of in that space,
Yes.
but you're a much smaller version of them,
Yes.
kind of thing.
And it's more boutique-y. It's clients come to us, we know their name, we answer our own phone,
And some
we
people
hug
like
them.
that. Some
Yes.
people like
If you
that,
go with a
yeah.
bigger wirehouse or something, you're not going
The
to
only
get that
problem, and I don't
attention.
want to even imply this because I'm not with you, saying this with you, but once in a while, and I've actually known people, personally known people, you know what I'm going to say, who got in with somebody who was a small person, smaller independent, and boom, it's like either they went bust or they were, you know. Oh, I knew someone, well, our mutual friend, who I won't say, but also knew a person, we knew a person in Grosse Pointe, who was a very prominent individual. And I don't know, I never knew the details, but they had to sell their home on Lake St. Clair. I mean, it was, people know who I'm talking about, but they're both passed
Because
away
their business
now.
went out, you're saying?
Somehow their planner either went under or took the money. My impression was that it was fraud kind of thing.
Wow.
That was my impression of them. We're not saying the names, so. But yeah, it's just, see, I've always been really careful. Of course, being in GM, we had certain people. We had, you know, like Charles Schwab and different people like that. And that's how I came along.
I
know,
hear you. I
to
hear
use
ya.
that. And I always, but anything can happen. But I just know that some of those, and I'll tell you another person, well, I don't want to say this, it was in the news, was Sergei Fedorov. He was my neighbor years ago,
Yes.
just right down the road here. And he got into some sort of thing.
He
And
did get in
remember
with,
that?
I do, and I won't say which organization.
Okay, I
but
don't remember,
I was
so.
in with, I got a referral to one of the sports teams here in Michigan, and I was going to teach them classes. And they said, you know what, if you sell products, we can't have you teach classes because apparently whoever taught classes the year before took a lot of money and lost it for everybody.
That was his person, you think?
And I'm not sure, but
Okay.
it was just interesting.
It was
So it
really,
happens.
that scared me really, because like I said, he was my neighbor over when I was, lived right near where we're sitting. But it was like, and then there was some other implication, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but I knew that he had some family members, I think, got tied up or something. But it was around the same time that the other people in Grosse Pointe had gotten scammed, if you want to call it scammed or whatever.
That's too bad, and it does happen in a lot of businesses.
In any business,
We've been
yeah.
around 38 years. People know
Well,
me.
people
They know where
you.
I live.
I think that's the main thing. They know
It is.
where you live, right?
It is more personal. They could
Yeah.
find where I live. I mean,
Oh,
it is
sure,
what it is.
Sure.
But
And in today's world, everything's, but it's scary. It's very scary.
money's scary for people.
It's
Money's
scary, period.
emotional. Money's very emotional. The psychology degree I obtained over at Wayne State was very helpful because people have ideas about money and they have no idea where that came from. But if you had parents that hated their jobs, they came home every night and they just crabbed about their job and about money, that's tough. That's what they learned what money was. And so they have this negative attitude toward money. Or you know of people that got ripped off, so can I blame you that you might have some distrust, right?
Right.
I mean, that's very common.
Right.
I've had 401k meetings. I had one guy, he had his arms crossed and he says, you know, this company's not matching, so I'm not going to put any money in. And I said, okay, well, you can go. And he goes, well, I thought I had to stay here. I said, no, we don't need you to
Right.
stay.
This is all on you.
Bye.
Right. Exactly.
I said, but I'm going to tell you something. The fact that you're not saving is nobody's fault but your
Right.
own. You're the one that has to take responsibility for your own retirement one day.
Right.
Your company spent time and money to offer this 401k, and just because they can't afford to match you, you're going to say you're not going to put money away. Okay, you can make that choice, but that's not your company's fault. That's
Right.
on you. And he said, well, and I said, so if you change your mind and you want to save some money, just call me anytime. And it's funny because he was pretty negative, and I just, quite frankly, I just wanted to get him out of the
Right, I
room.
bet. Sounds like
And
it.
everyone else said, "Oh, he's always crabby," and that type of thing. But what was funny about the whole thing is, we'd come back every year and we teach financial literacy courses, because what I had found is over 90% of the people I've met in my career during 401k enrollment meetings is a lot of people do not know anything about money. Their parents didn't teach them.
I think that's a key thing that you say.
The
right,
only
yeah.
reason, and I know we haven't gotten there yet, but the only reason I wrote my book is because it's kind of a legacy project. It's for all those people that they're working hard, but they really have no idea how to make more money, do better with their money. I had great parents, but when I got licensed at age 24, they came to me and said, "Can we retire? Because we have no idea." And I was shocked. I thought, wow, I thought you would know this.
Right.
So
You're right.
You can have great parents, but they just don't know better to teach you anything about money.
Well, I know just people in the community and stuff, and these wouldn't be GM or Ford people, but it's like, it's just phenomenal how, I don't want to use the word naive, but I'll use the word naive.
That's not a bad word.
That's a kind of a good word. And I'm talking about some individuals, I have a certain person in mind, that, I mean, they live a high lifestyle that would be equivalent of super prominent people and flaunting it. And I'm talking, several homes, trips, to the islands. I mean, just
high end.
every vehicle, them, their kids, top line. And it's like, but I had thought that they were, I knew some of their professions. And I knew that it was good, but not fabulous. Like they weren't Dan Gilbert,
Yeah, it didn't match, did it?
Didn't match.
Okay.
And it's like they just keep rolling along, and it's like they'll make comments. This one person would make comments like, "Oh, like you just said, if I can retire, well, I don't know when I can retire." And then they'll say that like it's someone else's fault, and I don't think even match that this is the lifestyle they live.
Yeah.
They're maybe, like 60 years old. And I don't think even thinking about, oh, well, we have this incredible lifestyle. I mean, a very high lifestyle. But not even thinking, it's not that far down the road, plus a kid in college and stuff. And it's like, you just look at them. The thing that bothers me, being a retiree, very young when I retired, like 52, but it's like they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky." It's not luck.
No.
That's a real pet peeve for me and other people. It's like, you make choices,
Correct.
kind of thing.
So this is interesting you bring that up. Two things. One is, maybe these people, they grew up in that environment. They're used to spending that much money. They really don't know better. And no one's really explained how it works to retire. What everybody's trying to do, I don't care what income you're at, is you're trying to build up enough money so that you could replace your income,
Right.
so you don't have to work anymore.
Right, and
that's really the bottom line.
That's exactly it. And I think a lot of people, they just don't even
They
think
just don't
that far.
know that.
And in this particular case, I don't think it's that they grew up that way. I think it's just almost like a delusion, to be honest with you.
The reason I say
people
grew up that way
delusion.
is I grew up in a 1,000-square-foot home, 6 kids, 2 were special needs.
Wow.
So, and my parents worked very hard, and my mom started working at Sears, but she'd do it in the afternoon so that when my dad got home, she would go work. Here's my point. I'm used to not going on vacations. I don't go to the islands. So what I mean by someone might have grown up traveling like that and living a nice higher lifestyle, and so they're used to it, and that's what they're used to doing, where I didn't grow up having that.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
And suddenly now, over the years, and it took me many years before I started to really make money, but I didn't need anything. So it was easier, I think, for me
Yeah,
to save
I
money
see, yeah.
than someone else. I had a couple, it's kind of interesting, this is way back in the day, and this was big money. I'm talking a good 25 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And they each made 50 grand a year.
Okay.
They both worked at a big company. And I said, wow, if you could save one income and live off the other, you could probably retire early. And they were like, oh. And I said, think about it, because it starts adding up and it starts compounding. And they did do that. And it's funny because they lived very modestly and they became millionaires.
Wow.
Just by,
Yeah, I totally believe that.
Yeah.
Right. Just making good choices.
so it's achievable.
Making choices.
And the book goes a little deeper than just about investments. It talks about, for instance, your attitude about money. So I started out saying attitude, you have an attitude about money whether you know it or not. It's whatever you, maybe from your experiences in life, that sort of thing. The next chapter is more about cash flow. And when I do presentations to people, what's kind of fun is it's all about them. So they're not sitting there just listening to me. You know, I said, okay, what do you have
So it's
coming up?
interactive and
Yes, I'll
like
say, what
that,
do you have
yeah.
coming up in the next year? Do you have enough money for that? What do you have coming up in the next 5 years? Oh, I might want a new car. I want to buy a house. Maybe they have little kids they want to save for college. And then I say, well, the retirement's your third bucket. You don't want to touch that. So that's a big mistake a lot of people do is they'll
yeah.
use their
Oh,
401k
yeah.
like as a savings plan.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, no,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no.
Oh,
You just
yeah.
kiss that goodbye, pretend it's not there, and move on. So some of these habits, people simply don't know better. I'm not criticizing them at all. They just,
Don't know.
no
yeah.
one ever taught them.
So pivoting to your book, so you, for the book, you basically just sat down and kind of put these learnings together. So talk about that whole
I did
legacy,
kind
as
of a
you said.
chronological of
Like we said, a
attitude about
chronicle.
money, cash flow, teaching your kids how to invest and save money. So every time I do a 401k meeting, I'd say, how many of you know how to save money? And a few people raise their hand. I said, now how many of you invested money before? I got less than 5%.
That's
that would say.
amazing. That's amazing.
So that means 95% of the people I'm meeting don't know how to invest. They just never were taught. So I talk about investing. I talk about building portfolios according to what your risk is. I talk about teaching your kids how to invest, how to teach your kids or groom them to meet people so they can find a decent career, whether it's college or not. If you have a child that's very creative, then go introduce them to graphic artists. If you have a child that might be terrible at math, this is all in fun, but I make fun of lawyers because lawyers are very smart people and a lot of them didn't like math.
Right.
But do you want to
Right.
be a litigator? Are you good at acting? Maybe you were in drama in high school. Are you more numbers like a tax attorney? Are you really more of a researcher that's quiet? Or are you maybe an advocate for special needs? In other words, every type of career has different personalities. And when you give your child a chance to talk to different people in their careers, it opens them up to more. And they start to think about what they want to do.
That's so important, even aside from the money issue. But you know what they say, if you do something you love, I think Trump says this, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life.
It's true.
And that is a huge thing because so many people, you know, fit a square peg in a round hole. And oh my God, there's so many, like you said, your friend
Did
was
you love your job? Because I love my job.
Mine is a
so-
long story. At times, in the General Motors, I started in the finance staff. I was in a very, I'm not bragging about this, but I was a very prestigious internship when I was 19 years old.
Oh my goodness.
And I was at Notre
That's
Dame,
young.
and it was, you know, I didn't appreciate it at all, and that's on me. But then, long story, I was back at Notre Dame, and then I came back to GM. I actually went to Ford and then to GM. But both Ford and GM, the finance staffs, there's huge staffs in the companies. Finance is one, manufacturing, of course, engineering. But I was in finance. And, you know, you just had to find a specific role, and it could be fine, it could be good, but I was very lucky, and this was absolute serendipity. But I knew Debbie Dingle, I'll just say that, everybody knows I worked for Debbie. But I got into the lobbying area and then into the GM Foundation, and I loved it at first. Long story short, the problem with not the lobbying was actually more fun, and believe it or not.
Man, I'm clueless about all that stuff.
Foundation work in any, whether it's company or private foundations or whatever, and a lot of people, I want to write a book on this, and I just haven't been disciplined enough to do it. But it's just a really funny business because there's a lot of sharks in that business, more so than the financial planning business. Sharks, capital sharks. I'm not saying everybody, But I'm saying that even in, let's say if you took animals or whatever the subject, it could be breast cancer. I mean, but you just got, because people know how to bob and weave, they know how to tap dance. It's hard to even describe it. And the bottom line to me is you never know who your friends are. You never really know.
See, I
You
have a
die.
hard
Yeah,
time
you
with
die.
that because I'm.
What you see is
I'm
what
more
you get.
simple. Yeah, I'm very simple. I'll say what I'm thinking for people.
Oh yeah.
Even if say the market's down, I talk to clients and say, "Yep, we're down, and this is what you need to do. You need to hang on." And I was always very upfront and honest. I'm not sure I could do that. I'll be honest.
You would be unhappy. Probably a lot of people, because a lot of times
Well, I
with that
trust
business,
everybody
well, you
until
just so did I. But then
otherwise.
you get real smart real quick though, because and like I said, I don't want to be like.
I don't think I could navigate that though.
It's really difficult to navigate. It really is, and you just don't know. But now we've got just a few minutes left. The time has flown by today. I wanted to ask you, now you were involved with the Troy Chamber, is that right? Or
Yes.
was that, okay, talk a little about that and then, yeah.
We belong to the Troy Chamber, which we absolutely love. It's a great
Okay, I've heard a
opportunity to
lot
meet
about
other
that, yeah.
other
Professionals.
yeah, and other business owners. We Bloomfield, Birmingham Chamber,
Oh, yeah, that's.
and also the Royal Oak Chamber. So we
Okay.
belong to all three. And we belong to SBAM, which is Small Business Association of Michigan. These are all business owners. And then I'm Certified Women Business Owner, which is WeBank. So they're all business owners.
And that's the one you won the big thing with.
No,
That was
someone
in Florida.
nominated me, and that
Okay.
Enterprising
There's so
Women
many
came
women
out of the left
business,
field
yeah.
for me. But that was a great group of people too.
That looked fun down there in
Oh my
Clearwater,
gosh,
yeah.
amazing women, very very nice.
Now, this is kind of pivoting to something else, but I've had a good friend of mine, and several of my good friends are in a group here called NABO. Have you ever been in that? You
Yes,
should
I
be in that.
have, and I was
National
pretty
Association.
active on it. I was
Oh,
on
I
their
didn't know that. Oh
board.
my God, no kidding.
We just ran out of time. Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't have
They
time
do a
to
lot.
hold everything.
They do a lot.
They're a great organization.
They are,
though.
yeah.
I don't
They
want
do
to cut
so
them
much.
short.
Yeah, they do a lot.
We
yeah.
just can only join so much.
Well, that's the point though. There's so many of those.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's well, it's because people always get that mixed up with NABO, and there's another one I can't remember now. And then there's Inforum. That used to be the Women's Economic Club.
It used to be Women's Economic
I remember
Club.
that.
There's
yeah.
a Women's Presidents Organization.
Oh,
there's,
yes.
There's tons.
That's just local. And then
Yes.
the national organizations.
So there's, people listening to this, if you're a business owner, there's plenty of places to meet other owners. And if you can't, say, afford coaching and you want help with someone, meeting other owners, we're always helping each other. It's nice.
Well, so we've got, I think on the screen, they're going to have your phone number, your website, and then I'm going to put this up one more time.
Oh, that's nice
For
of
the
you. Thank
car,
you.
because I want to, I can't wait to read it because, you can never know too much about money and investing.
For the record, it's very simple. It's really just getting people
That's good, though.
motivated and started.
Makes you think about things,
At the
right?
retirement, you'll like because it goes through, are you ready to retire? How do you know? And you've been retired, but you might read through it and say,
I can
oh,
always learn. I've always got my
Oh.
brain open for
Yeah,
learning.
yeah.
Well, Jill, thank you so much for being
This
here
has been a
today.
pleasure. Thank you for
This has
having
been so
me.
fun. I may have a follow-up because we really didn't even cover half the stuff.
I know,
right?
we got to
We
talking,
got to
but
talking,
that's
but that's
awesome.
what people want. And I think that's so interesting because you've had such a phenomenal career and it's still going strong.
Oh,
So,
we're having
yeah.
fun. I'm
We're having
fun.
fun. Okay, well, thanks, Jill.
Thank
and
you.
thank you for watching.